Hey everyone, and welcome back to Planet Coaster. We'll be working on a smaller building than the haunted house last time, and this is going to be kind of my first addition to the winter theme set that was released here on the 15th, or was it on the 16th? I forget. And what I'm going to be building is Ebeneezer Scrooge's house and kind of work area here. So the first floor is his kind of money counting operation, and I think he was kind of more of like a loan broker type of deal in terms of profession. I don't really know what else he would have been doing, but his upper story, at least in this rendition, is a house. And these structures are loosely based off of these ceramic houses and models one might buy for the holidays and to set up their own like diorama on, like, say, the hall table with some fake snow and some of these kind of houses lit with some lights on the interior. I don't know if those have a technical term or not, but I just know my grandmother always had some of these set up, and but I always just thought it looked pretty cool to have little figurines and things on these little cotton swabs that were just strewn about as if it was snow. Maybe a little train if that's something your family was more into than, say, just the pure architecture side. I'm going to be starting with a very large window here, and this is going to have kind of that green roof that you might see on a copper roof where the copper has aged and turned a little bit green with weathering, and that's a common effect when copper roofing was a thing and a build material that we used to kind of do tin roofing, but maybe a little bit more higher end. The front kind of stoop here, we're going to be using the railings, putting stuff inside the building. We have much more leeway this episode in terms of part clipping than the previous one, because we're not going to be doing an interior. This is going to be an exterior only structure. It's going to be having a ATM, just because I figured, it would be, since it's Ebeneezer Scrooge's house, a guy with a lot of money, and he works with money, it would be cool to make it the ATM location for a park in a winter theme setting. You can also potentially get rid of the winter theme set pieces and use it in terms of more of a main street structure. It has that kind of element. It's just something that you might see along the side of the main path to a park, and that was kind of the nice multi-purpose role of this thing. So we're just laying down some snow here with the new scenery items that were added in, trying to get some of the corners built up, and we're not going with a complete snow covering. Maybe some of the snow is melted in this rendition, and so the roof isn't going to be completely covered in snow. We'll have some patches and some more clumped area that is left over while the rest is melted off. And because I'm basing this off of these little ceramic models, I decided to kind of capture the feel of them in terms of, if there's a metal fence going around a house, it's very close and knit to the walls, and that's to show that, hey, this has a yard, but it, for the sense of scale and to make this model work, we'll just keep it really close and really kind of homey and cozy to kind of raise that ambience. So the first floor is going to be brick with a light wood coloring. Think about maybe adding some snow on top of this green roof section here. We're going to have some dead space, and the large clumping doesn't really look quite right, and I wanted to try and maybe raise the roof a little bit more before worrying about adding snow on top of that. The corners of this roof, there's a lot of dead space. I didn't want just something flat here for those corners, so I decided to use the bottom part of these wooden, almost, I forget the term for that, I guess half arch kind of support structure, but we're just using the bottom side where that supporting arch is to give us kind of a ribbing effect going up, and that's just an extra little detail. It took me a little while to figure out what kind of signs I wanted to use for this structure. There's a lot of edible signs, and I don't really have much experience with the Western ones, and so it was a bunch of trial and error to try and get something that I might like. This is the Keepers of Accounts, and money counting house, I guess. This is just borrowing the text from one of my source images from Google Image. You guys can always just kind of find these things quickly by searching on Google search and use them for your own build. Using a cast iron kind of larger support to make that feel a little bit more grounded to the side of the building, because I didn't like just the simpleness of the previous version. Finding a decent font, something a little bit more cursive, a little bit more flowy, old, 1800s kind of look to that. And the upper floor is going to be plastered walls with kind of this dark wood. The doors and the accent window there is green, and I was thinking about maybe adding a side element here that you guys will see in the finished version. In one of the models, I used 2 models as kind of my reference. In fact, I might even throw them up in the corner during this whole build, so if you see them, I put them there. We get a all brick, almost like an English row home like model, and then we have more of a Tudor home model here, and I went with a combination of both, so the brick foundation and the Tudor second floor. I always liked that break, kind of a very strong, thicker foundation, and that holds up the lighter second floor and gives a lot of support to allow a lot of windows and openness as you go higher up. So yeah, green doors, green accents, really dark green wood on the second floor. It's actually matte black. If you went to the color swatch, it's pretty much the darkest green in the game. Now, sadly, because this is a 3/4 grid, so 3/4 of a grid wide area, we're not going to get a roof that fits this. And so what I have to do is make this out of multiple buildings to get me that plaster all the way up the side of the building. And going forward, I don't really enjoy making one structure out of multiple structures. It kind of adds this little extra layer of complication that I don't really want to deal with. But sometimes it's necessary to just get the look that you want. Again, messing with some signs, trying to figure out what fits on the front here, because one of my models as well calls for a sign here for the Scrooge and Marley kind of sign for, I guess, Scrooge and Marley. I don't know the Marley character a whole lot, so I don't know why that was in one of my models, but maybe he's just a co-owner of the counting business, and Scrooge is probably the main owner there. The front, we'll have some snow, we'll have the ATM machine just outside. I didn't want to make a little cutaway or access point in this building. There's not a whole lot of room on the interior just because of how kind of small and compact it is. The initial wood on the second floor will be bringing in that darker element and keeping that horizontal line just as a nice color break, so that you know that you're going from a light wood to a dark wood accent area. And that's just something to do. I do like to use the thin wood and the thick wood as kind of a cheat to get 2 rows there. And that's a quick method to kind of fill in a decent amount of detail on the fly. Tried to use some roofing pieces to make up our roof and try to use the different grids to their advantage, but we just couldn't do it. It's just such a tight space and weird kind of roof line that I went ahead and used the wooden awnings to give us the actual roof tile set. And that's something you can do. You can move these around. They're scenery or gridless items. And if you have a weird roof line, I would suggest doing this instead of trying to use the default grid system, because it's just going to save you time. It's a little bit less of a headache. Granted, it is a little annoying sometimes to get the shape you want. Like here in this corner, I didn't like the way those roof lines were clipping through each other. And even back here on this back corner, I didn't really like that either. But, sometimes you're just limited to the parts and how they perform together. And that's going to give us our final kind of roof look there. On the left-hand side of one of our models, there is a cellar entrance. So I wanted to capture that a little bit. It's not quite as big or as sizable as something that you might see more traditionally, but it is big enough to probably let someone step down. It's probably a very steep staircase here into the cellar, and we're just going to have to build a custom door. So we're just going to inset that onto the door frames so that we get a little bit of a shadow cast there. Color them initially dark green, which looks black, I guess, in the recording, and then we went ahead and changed it. Alright, so here we are with the finished structure here of Scrooge and Marley as kind of keeper of accounts here. And it is, we have a little bit of an ATM machine here in the snow, and everything kind of aligns in a straight line here. So you can bump this up really close to your main pathways, and it shouldn't have any issue. The path also should go underneath the snow, so it kind of becomes invisible as your guests kind of approach and gather some more money to use throughout your park, maybe possibly in a haunted house, or for some reason a donation to the church. Over here we have the upper floor. Now I'm sure there would be a access point on the interior to get up into his home level, but there's also a side entrance here, possibly in case he has the lower floor locked up. He can just simply go up the side staircase here and go home. Here is the cellar entrance. I really like the green doors. It just adds that little touch of color here and there to give us a nice effect, to break up the monotony of such a simple structure as this. Over here on this side, we have a little bit of a barn door kind of entrance, and this is maybe to bring in large sacks of money, possibly large sacks of goods, supplies, to be counted in this counting house itself. Nice little windows with shutters along the whole side here. We got our support kind of Tudor style wooden beams going across the roof line as well. One little tree, because this would be more on the main street detailing, possibly on a corner. Didn't want to add a whole lot of greenery, as I think your guys' park will dictate that more than my workshop item should. Some lamp light there. In fact, actually, I probably need to add just one more light. Thinking about it, let's do that real quick. I am thinking also as well, if you guys are interested, I might end up making some sort of a large tutorial series going forward of how to do theming on these single buildings. So this is, you know, a Tudor style structure with a stone foundation. Some Tudor buildings are double stories and a little bit more detailed than this one, and I wouldn't mind going through my process real time with you guys, showing you how to build some wall tile sets. I have been getting a few questions lately on building and constructing things in general, so maybe we can do that here as we go. The roof does have a bit of snow, and as I said during the speed build section, a lot of the snow is melted away, but you know, the large clumps do remain. Snow generally on roof lines melts from the outside inwards, because this is the center of mass of the snow gathering area. Also, more sunlight is exposed on the edges rather than center, as the center would kind of keep itself cooler longer, and that's why it's kind of the last spot to melt. We have a lot gathering around the chimneys here, some smoke effects and things like that to keep it entertaining and a little playful movement going along there. So if you guys enjoyed today's episode of Planet Coaster, feel free to subscribe. Check out the rest of my videos where we build a whole bunch of stuff on this channel for you guys to use on the Steam Workshop, and hopefully I can help you guys with your own builds and inspire you to keep on building. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next episode.